the city that moves mountains. Greetings.
I have come here to chew bubble gum and kick ass, and I am all out of gum.
Oh, yes, you are. How you doing today, my friend?
Goose, if I was any better, I'd move a mountain myself. How about you?
Well, hey, that sounds good to me. I would do the exact same thing. Episode 46, part number 2 is here.
Oh, I'm excited for everybody to listen to this.
I mean, this was the most fun that I think I've had doing a roundtable. That was the most guests we've ever had doing a roundtable as well. Again, last week we did have internet problems here in this new studio location with a storm that moved through. Hopefully sound was not too bad, but it will sound a lot better this week, thanks to the fine folks at AT&T that took care of us last week. So I guess there's not much left to say. If you're a fan of the show,
I do have one thing to say.
You will love this episode, part 2.
I briefly mentioned it. If you want to know more about HARP and Mother Nature, or HARP versus Mother Nature, whenever it rains, you go outside and tell me if you see worms or not, because it's been coming less and less. When you see worms, that is real rain. When they're not covering the ground and you have that wonderful stenchy earth smell, that's not Mother Nature.
Really? Now, see, you did mention that on the round table, but you didn't tell us why. We are going to have to talk about that later on in the show as well.
Yeah, I came to this conclusion a long time ago, and it actually happened on a live where I finally vocalized it because I was literally pissed off and standing outside in the rain showing Rebecca on the ground, where are all the damn worms? The birds are gone. The worms are gone. What's going on?
You know, that makes a lot of sense.
The rain was leaving nothing on the vehicles. Like, you couldn't see a water trail. There was no residue trail. Like, when rain comes from the sky, when it's natural rain, there are minerals in it. There are little tiny mineral deposits, and that's what helps with the soil. That's why the worms come to the surface, because they need some of that stuff they can't get living in the soil. They need that water.
That makes a lot of sense. Definitely. Wow. Oh.
And people were worried about batteries and pigeons.
Yeah. Who knows, my friend? Well, without further ado, here is part 2 of the roundtable on Here to Chew Bubblegum. Enjoy this ear candy goodness, correct, Dirty Dan?
It is all ear candy, and if you go to our YouTube channel, it's also eye candy.
Oh, yes, it is. Here it is. Enjoy.
Safe words. People had all the schools to, like literally you had to come into the school to pick up the child. Anybody had to have like double verification on that this person was allowed to pick me up. And that's how people were as far as like taking care of your kids. Like, we were latchkey kids, had a lot more freedom than kids do today, but people were also paying a lot more attention, and that just doesn't happen in today's world. And I think it's directly connected to the fact that people who are into child trafficking and all the other dark shit that we all know is in existence out there. That's why we don't see kids on milk cartons. That's why we don't see. We used to watch Unsolved Mysteries, and the reason that, or not Unsolved Mysteries, FBI's Most Wanted, and that guy Adam Walsh, like, he started that TV show because his son was kidnapped, raped, and decapitated and murdered, and it was a huge part of our society. It was like, back then we were all concerned about the welfare of all children, and now that's not even a fucking thing.
That's when Epstein was flying under the radar. No one knew that whole thing going on.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. And now it's like it's all intentionally under the radar because the people, the black hats that are involved in all of this evil, dark shit are now predominantly the people, or at least they were predominantly the people in charge of our government and our media, you know? So now, you know, I think that's an interesting shift, is because when I was growing up, it's 9 o'clock. Do you know where your children are? Like, it was a whole cultural campaign about protecting our children. And then sometime around the time Clinton got in office, all of a sudden, all of that shit goes away in the mid 90s. And now it's like I spent 10 years of my life in Vegas, and Las Vegas, I mean, we're talking something like 80,000 kids go missing a year in the state of Nevada. And it's like, I don't know if you guys have ever been to Nevada, but it's pretty much Vegas and Reno. So now we're talking 80,000 kids are going missing from 2 cities that don't have huge populations.
Well, I think like of those 80,000, almost 74,000 of them are strictly from Vegas, right?
It's a disgusting number. I think it's 74% of that.
74%.
Is from Vegas. And it's like, when you look at that, and somebody, you know, when you look at that number and you're like, I mean, I live in a city of 40,000 people. So you're telling me twice the number of my city's population in children is going missing. And that shit's still not on milk cart. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make sense, except for the fact that it's obviously a huge thing that's going on. I mean, you know, when you look at the Maxwell and Epstein shit, I mean, and the fact that it's connected to, I remember seeing documentaries in the 90s and 2000s of they had, you know, these victims that had survived from abuse from the royal families, abuse from the Australian government. Like, everywhere you go, this is happening, and nobody's talking about it, and we're still looked at like we're crazy for bringing it up. And Facebook they'll block the president, and they'll block people like us on social media for trying to raise consciousness. You know, for fuck's sake, I'm a meditation teacher, and I get banned on TikTok more than anybody I know, except for these 2. And at the end of the day, it's like Facebook will completely stop #SaveTheChildren. And there's still hashtags that we know for a fact pedophiles are using to communicate and do business with. Like, it's infuriating, to say the least.
Well, and not just that, but what's even more disconcerting about that is the excuse about the whole Vegas percentage of children is that it's not a majority number. It's not enough to be so concerned about it. What? You're saying 80,000 kids going missing in your state a year is not something to be concerned about because 290,000 are still okay? That's not okay.
Yeah, what's the percentage? Like what percentage is 80,000 of 200 and something? I mean, that's almost a quarter.
Well, they say 300,
a quarter of your children to go missing. All right.
They say 350,000 kids in that state.
Yeah.
But 80,000, which would be
almost a third.
Yeah. So apparently, because it's 33.33% or less, it's okay. No, that's not how that works. That's not how that works at all. And, well, I'm not going to get us in trouble and say how I really feel about that.
All right, we all feel the same way, brother.
We are back, and hopefully Justin and I sound better now. I think we just had a really bad storm come through. We do have internet, but I switched out a hot box, and you guys sound a lot better on our end here as well since we're on the hot box. So hopefully we won't lose the net anymore. But
is it a bad storm, or are they just trying to keep us from communicating?
No, it was a very bad storm.
Do me a favor.
Yes, sir.
Go out and look, or Justin, in the parking lot, and tell me if you see any earthworms or not.
Okay. Well, we'll have to do that after we get done with this, and we'll let you know that when we record the radio show.
Rebecca and Oren are aware of that, but I made the point out that you can always tell the difference between rain, because when it's got that nice earthy smell, you see the earthworms.
Yeah. Well, the place that we're at now, like I said when we started, this is the new studio, and they took really good care of us. They even took a special at their expense, and they upgraded their internet so we would have internet back here in our new studio. There's a thing right outside the door. So, I mean, we had full signal when we started, and the connection didn't get that bad until actually the storm came in. But I do have a hot box that Justin and I are hooked up on now. hope we didn't miss anything. So
no, we continue the conversation. I haven't even gotten to say my points that I've had my hand up for 25 minutes now on.
If you want to go ahead and say your points and then read the last topic that the listener suggested, please feel free.
So getting back to the Reagan thing, on September 16th of 83, he made a speech to Russia that basically put the UN and everyone else on a subtle notice about this, saying we're not that different at all. Like, that man almost ended the Cold War with that speech, unintentionally talking about life forms, and the encounters he had. But people don't talk about that. At least I've heard that it goes back to when he was even governor of California, and he was returning from a trip in 1974 in a Cessna Citation, and he and a pilot and two of his Secret Service members literally got chased down, and it's recorded on FAA traffic by a UFO. It was a craft that did come up on their radar screen that literally quadrupled in length before doing a very high climb out and then disappearing completely. That is on record.
There's a when you just said about the ship changing shape, it just tripped a memory. There's an interesting it was a mini series that was done, I think, on NBC, and I think it was done by Spielberg. It's called Taken, and it was like a 3 or 4 part mini series. Dakota Fanning was in it, and the whole series covers like a 60-year period from the original contact of aliens or whatever with our species, and then it shows these multiple families and how it travels down, and these beings came down, and all the abductions were specifically to impregnate humans and raise hybrids. And the interesting part of it was that Dakota Fanning ended up being like one of these hybrid children, and she was so intelligent because she was part alien, and they could create ships simply with their mind because they had the ability to manipulate our reality. And she could take people outside of time. She could change the shapes and manipulate our reality as almost like in the movie Inception. And so it's interesting because a lot of people talk about the experiences they've had witnessing ships, changing shape or changing direction in ways that completely defy physics. And it's if all of their technology is somehow connected to some higher level of consciousness, that would all make perfect sense.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Just because based on the fact alone that when you look at that, when a ship does physics-defying maneuvers, clearly there's something else there that is able to beat or defeat the gravitational force or whatever it may be that is pulling us down and our normalcy stuff down, to where we have to create excessive amounts of lift to go against that and fly. Why are these things able to do complete out of the ordinary maneuvers and changes in not only altitude, speed, directions, everything? What is allowing them to do that? And it seems like all of the ones, well, as per usual, all of the ones that are recorded or are verified, just like this one in 74 with Reagan, no one ever talks about because it's all hidden.
Gravity is still a theory.
All right, Dirty Dan, go ahead and read the last email, and this will conclude the email portion of the roundtable, but we still have 2 segments that we will continue, so don't get sad. Dirty Dan, take it away.
Mrs. J writes in, "Hello, everyone. I'm here to chew bubblegum. I'm really looking forward to the roundtable. I'd like to hear an in-depth discussion on the TR-3B, no dash, Rebecca. The history, sightings, technology, I could go on and on and on. Anyway, thank you for taking time to read my email."
So,
who is not familiar with what the TR-3B is here? Patriot Mama, Rebecca.
Okay.
It is on the map. Okay. So,
the
Goose,
TR-3B is fascinating.
I was going to say, this is your little love child. Let the people know what exactly the TR-3B is.
Well, I will give just a basic description, and then I'll probably start out with AURON or DJing and get their thoughts. The TR3B is basically the black triangle that has a series of white lights or a series of red lights or white lights and then one big red light underneath that has been seen all over the world. A lot of the sightings started, and you can even go back to some old Unsolved Mysteries episodes, started in the 80s and all over the world being seen. The TR-3B. The TR-3B is, in fact, a U.S. plane. We have several of them. They're owned by the Navy. The government doesn't publicly say that they exist. There is photographic evidence. You can find that they do exist. There is patents. And there's even a little conspiracy around the patents of TR-3B. The name St. Clair was one of the guys that has a patent or tried to get a patent. I think his was denied. But then you can do some research and find out some more that the Navy does have a patent on this. The TR-3B, also known as the Black Manta, some people call it, was allegedly manufactured by the Northrop Corporation. It doesn't officially exist, but it uses highly pressured mercury accelerated by nuclear energy to produce a plasma that creates a field of anti-gravity around the ship. DJ, I guess we'll start with you. You are familiar with the TR-3B, correct?
I've read the patents on it, yes. Okay.
Now, and like I said, the John St. Clair patent, that's a conspiracy all by itself because, number one, I don't think there is a person that exists named John St. Clair.
But all the patents under his name are very, very interesting.
Yes, there is. That's a whole nother rabbit hole. What's your thoughts on the TR-3B? And where your dad worked for NASA, have you ever saw one up close and personal?
No. I've looked at that, and to me, I'm not qualified to actually say whether any of those technical descriptions of how it operates are accurate, scientifically, physically, or whatever. But it seemed legitimate, and I do know that world governments tend to suppress technology. If their citizens are working on something that threatens their national security, they will confiscate it, including free countries. They also do that. So I have no doubt that there is stuff like that that has been hidden. And I also think that if it's being released in what's publicly accessible, the records, then that is, my guess would be a form of soft disclosure, because they don't have to allow that to be, that's classified. It doesn't have to be searchable on Google Patents. So they're clearly, either someone is leading us down a false rabbit hole, or we're seeing a soft D class. And I tend to think maybe it's more soft D class, because I personally subscribe to the idea that there is a breakaway civilization on Earth, that there is superior technology that's been hidden from us, that we've been deemed unworthy or incapable of handling at this time. And so, I think it's definitely real. But I can't comment directly on the technology described in the patents, because it was beyond my comprehension.
Now, if you even go back to, after September, or it might have been pre-September 11th, Gary McKinnon, he was from England, he hacked NASA computers. He claims to have seen a list of U.S. pilots that were certified to fly the TR-3B. And I think also, if you do a little digging, at that time, we had like 30 TR-3Bs and only maybe 15 to 20 people certified to fly them. AURON, what's your thoughts on the TR-3B?
It kind of ties into everything else that, we've already touched on today. I think that the level of technology that's out there, that's available, I completely agree with everything DJ just said about the breakaway civilization. I think it ties into the whole, the Project Paperclip thing. We had all of these Nazi scientists that were doing all of this work specifically with this type of technology. We mentioned that, the Thule Society and the occult aspect of everything, that was motivating Hitler and his people. And then you take all of those scientists and you spread them out all over the world. We've got them in South America and Argentina. We've got them developing NASA here. We've got them doing whatever they were doing up in Russia. I think that group of people were the basis of the breakaway civilization. And I think that, that technology, again, you look into Tesla, we had completely free electricity over 100 years ago. And the only reason that when this is the thing that frustrates me, because ever since I was a little kid and started understanding all this stuff, there's no reason that we shouldn't be at utopia yet, except for the fact that we're being controlled on a mass scale. Because if we have the technology for free electricity, well, what the hell does everybody work for? Why do you have a job? You have a job because you have to pay for energy. You have to pay for your electricity. You have to pay for your gas. You have to pay for your fuel in your car. You have to pay for your food, which is also businesses and companies that have to pay the fuel and the electricity and the transportation and all that stuff. So at the end of the day, if we had free electricity, or free energy in general, there would be no reason to control society. There would be no mechanism for controlling society. So the idea that something like, I remember watching if anybody remembers when the Phoenix lights happened I want to say it was like the mid or late 90s. I mean, that was an event that was broadcast on every major news station for almost 2 weeks in our country, because it was such a massive scale of an event. And then all of a sudden, nobody ever talked about it again. This type of technology has very obviously been in existence, whether it came from aliens, whether it was developed by our people, whether it has, an occult aspect because of what, the Nazis were doing. All of that's irrelevant to me, because the technology exists and we just don't have access to it. But yeah, I don't doubt any of that stuff at all.
Does anybody want to add anything else before? Oh yeah, Justin, sorry. Go ahead.
The thing that interested me in that, if you look at timelines, you look at a timeline of what we can verify they've come up with, from the U-2 to the SR-71, the F-117 Nighthawk, up to possibly either TR-3A or TR-3B, either the Aurora or the Manta. There's a lot of gaps, and it's amazing how much the government reveals without really wanting to reveal things. And this actual tie back into Reagan. In 84 or 85, Reagan revived the program for the B-1B, just to take over from where the Lancer was.
84.
All right, so you look at, they released a budget of $455 million in 84 for that. That plane was just the Lancer retrofitted. They had most of that infrastructure there. They could produce it. They could do all that. It got in production. We started using it. Then they turned right around in 87 and put $2.3 billion right back into that same program, a program that a lot of people said was dead by 86 as far as research development. They had the plane. Now you go 88, they publicly revealed the stealth bomber. So if they let that out of the bag in 88, then they had something on the back burner. And more than likely, that first, because, it's untold how much money went through black projects you can't see, but this document was leaked from a black project, and it gives you that $2.3 billion. They weren't putting $2.3 billion into the stealth. It was out. They weren't putting $2.3 billion into the B-1B. It was out. That money definitely went somewhere, and it's odd to me. You look at sightings, and when the sightings of these V-shaped crafts start showing up, there's the good possibility there's two different versions of this. The Manta has the anti-gravity type, but then the Aurora that come out of that Astra project was before that, and it had the pulse wave detonation engine. And the thing about it that was unique was these circular chemtrails it left behind. Well, you got those sightings, and then you take that same body style and everything, then you start getting sightings of what appear to be the Manta. I mean, the timeline's there for it to be in place, and it's in comparison to the stealth, because there are different types of aircrafts. The actual amount of photographic evidence for something that we consider to be the TR-3B is much higher than, say, the stealth. The stealth only has that ability of that fast. I mean, they got to fuel it in there. You know, they've got to get it up, let it get to speed, let it seal up that whatever that coating is that's on, so it can hold fuel. You know, it's hard to photograph something at that speed that high. But if you take something with that anti-gravity type of engine that's able to sustain slow, silent flights, to be able to hover, you know, to act in a way that most high-speed jets don't act. And then, you know, you add into that timeline, Russia comes out with the checkmate, and they're very public about it. Yeah. China comes out with what are basically clones of the jets. We don't need to beat them, and they're very public about it. And I think that maybe not all, but some of the government leaked footage of these amazing crafts that can do things that we can't defy is them saying in a very public but non-public way, that checkmate's cute, but look at this, you know. And I think that's why we're seeing a little more exposure on that.
Yeah. And Oren, to answer your question, I don't know where I've read it, but I think in today's dollar signs, one TR3B, and I read this months ago. I think it was like $48 billion for just one plane, and we have 30 of them. Now I don't know how old those 30 are, but allegedly we have 30 of them. And I want to also make a comment before I turn segment 2 over to Dirty Dan. And doing some research on this yesterday, I did come across some new information on the TR3B that I will be talking about in future episodes once I have time to trace everything down and do a little bit of research. Let's see. I will turn it over to Rebecca and Dirty Dan. I'll let you guys do segment 2. I'm going to step away for just briefly, but I will be back. So, Rebecca, Dirty Dan.
Are we doing a break? Are we doing a break before segment 2 or no?
If anybody needs to take a break, we can. If you guys are good, I'll just let you guys take it over, and I'm going to step away for just a little bit.
Hey, Goose,
yes,
before
sir.
You walk away, on matrixdisclosure.com, it talks about the TR3B under the Astra code name from the Aurora program. One TR3B in 1986 cost $2.3 billion.
Yeah. See, I had read months ago, like in today's time, it was like $48 billion.
$48.6 billion.
Yeah, for just one. So, and then today's money. But Rebecca, first, does anybody need to take a break, or is everybody good? DJ's good. Orange good. Sonya,
I mean,
good?
Once Rebecca takes off, I'll probably disappear for a moment and appear on her screen.
Okay. Rebecca, take over. I will be back in like 3 minutes. So we're in segment 2. Here is Rebecca from The Short Shit Show. Take it away, Rebecca.
And honest Rebecca thoughts.
Yes, and honest Rebecca thoughts to keep it clean for the radio. But with everything that we've been talking about, and I know that I've read this a couple times, but I wrote this a little bit ago, and I feel that it really ties everything together and will also give segue to segment 2. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to read this again. But I titled it Perpetual Purpose. The last couple days, weeks, time doesn't exist, have been weird, right? All of the energies, the Schumann spikes, the synchronicities, the collective universal whispers coming to fruition. We have tuned into the divine frequencies. The messages are coming in clear, like scanning through static to find a radio station. The ether resides in varying forms, fulfilling particular services. Torsion light energy fields affect time. As Kozrev found in his studies, the density of time is changed by our thoughts. We are excelling our ascension. Over unity is free energy, when output exceeds input through transmutation. Collective mass meditations and shifting of focus energies creates reality. The universe always says yes. Perpetual energy is always potential. Routine and happenstance synchronicities are the yin and the yang. Coincidences are not by chance. Everything happens for a reason. With clear sight and 20/20 vision, the lenses of indoctrination have been shattered, seeing now the realms that have always existed, understanding and remembering that we are here for a purpose. It's breaking through and far beyond anything that we have been taught to believe as absolute. Escaping that construct, separating from the programming, and abandoning selfish desires allows the freedom to tap into the sacredness of Source, thus understanding and utilizing the missing links of it all and a theory to everything. Destruction is loud, but needed for creation. Trees fall with the sound of thunder, yet seeds sprout and grow in silence. Duality is needed. Balance is needed. Light can't exist without darkness. The happenstances of free will is the potential energy intricately weaving into the cosmic routines of perpetual purpose. Becoming the observer of the present happenings allows the communication from the cosmic messengers to be heard. Removing the blocks created by selfish desires and manipulated realities, thus releasing karma. Trusting fully in their nirvana, the supreme peace, the art of letting go and flowing with the current. As you breathe out, releasing the idea of control and finally finding the Hariath. Embracing the awakened breath that naturally fills. Placing consciousness in a state of sanity that only comes after complete breakdowns and surrender into madness. This is the return to source. Welcome home. Thanks, Dirty Dan. So I think that just really like sums everything up, and going into like the density of time is changed by our thoughts and how like we can come together with the mass meditation and the collective conscious and really change it. I mean, time flies when you're having fun, right? Like it's been instilled in us forever, right in front of our faces.
I don't know how much this really relates all together, but that made me think of something. I've always been really fascinated with ayahuasca and the way that it doesn't really matter where you pick somebody from or what area, region, what time, what age, the experience is always very similar. Whatever they experience, whatever beings they meet, whatever happens is a very similar experience, and it's recorded independently of other people. And there's even, we know that in a lot of the jungles where these plants exist, that have jaguars, the jaguars will eat these. We don't know if they have the inhibitors that prevent them from having the experience or not, but it's often seen in these villages that, Westerners who will come in, use the plant, have this experience, they will have an experience of seeing a jaguar and of seeing certain animals there. And then you've also got this great footage of these jaguars eating this plant, and just apparently it looks like on trail cam, I've seen the videos of them just having their own experiences, tripping out, not behaving the way, and it possibly could be a way to have a connection that we don't have in everyday life.
Yeah, if I can comment on that, I agree. I think that it's almost like our brains are receiving devices also, transceivers, I guess, because we can receive and transmit. And some substances, because I've actually tried ayahuasca at a retreat here in Austria. They had, so we were supervised by a shaman and by a psychiatrist in a group setting. And I experienced that. It was life-changing, to say the least. But I think that the brain is a transceiver, and these substances, we know that they alter blood flow to the brain, and so they could, I guess, change the channel that we're receiving and transmitting and receiving. So that's something I've thought of as well, because you do have similar experiences that could imply that you're tuning into a specific channel or a frequency. Like what Auron was saying earlier, we can only see a specific frequency of visible light, and we can also only perceive maybe thoughts on a specific frequency. And these psychedelics can shift that frequency so that we're perceiving different realities that were actually all around us all the time, but we're blind to them until our eyes are opened.
In regards to that whole everything you just said, it's really interesting when you get into the biochemistry of plant medicine and different psychedelics. So the LSD molecule and the psilocybin molecule, which are the active ingredients in acid and psychedelic mushrooms, they're actually the same shape as serotonin, which is the chemical that makes us happy. And they're the lock-in part that goes into our brain that we receive is the same shape as serotonin, but then it has all these other molecular structures on it that either turn on different parts of your brain that aren't naturally on, or that allow you to perceive things that your brain doesn't have the ability to naturally perceive. And it's interesting. They're tying back to the conversation with Graham Hancock. So his work is Graham Hancock was literally, he was just a news anchor and a newspaper reporter in the UK in the 80s. And his great awakening was started because he was doing a report in Ethiopia, and he met a monk or a priest who was, at this church where he was doing, nearby where he was doing his report. And the monk claimed that the church that he was a part of was holding and protecting the Ark of the Covenant. And that was that was an experience that led him down this path. And a lot of Graham Hancock's work is very directly tied to what happens when we're in that psychedelic experience. A lot of people, Terrence McKenna, a lot of people who've done extensive investigation with mushrooms and psychedelics, they believe that when you're in that state, that you are in a different frequency, a different dimensional place that you can perceive that exists outside of time and space. So like when you access, the world of psychedelic mushrooms, or when you access the world of lysergic acid, what's happening is that you're gaining access to a place, and everybody else who has gained access to that place, no matter where they are in space and time, are in that same place with you. It's a really interesting theory, and that's a lot of people believe that that's why these substances are so healing and so powerful, is because when you go into that space, you get the energy from other people who have gone through similar emotional and psychological healing, and that offers you the vibrational ability to do the same thing for yourself.
What's all your guys' thoughts on are you all familiar with Dr. Rife and his series of tones and yes, Rebecca?
Yes.
Okay.
So familiar.
Okay.
It's on the map. It's right next to 369 with Nikola Tesla and healing sounds, and it goes into singing bowls. It goes into the Tibetan rituals, and it goes into all 5 of the healing tones around you. And then the Rife machine is actually the cure for cancer, which taps into the frequency and the vibration and the energy. Those are the keys to the universe. That's all I'm saying. Okay.
Now, I'm going to make this comment, and then I'm going to go to DJ first, Oren, because he was getting ready to say something. I have done some research on the Rife tones and binary beats, and I had a friend that actually produces binary beats. And years ago, this woman wanted one to quit smoking, and he produced a CD for her. And this was several years ago, because I said he produced a CD. And she listened to it for 2 weeks, and she is still to this day smoke free. DJ, what's your thoughts on binary beats and the Rife frequency and so forth?
Well, speaking of Rife, also on the Ingersoll Lockwood website, they declassed some information about HARP and weather modification. And they talk about, it wasn't Rife, it was Orgone, who was the scientist who did orgone therapy. But he also had a cloudbuster, and he was arrested by the FBI and died in prison for what he did. But I also ran a graphene research lab in Australia, which everyone's like, graphene, ooh, it's the devil. No, graphene's just carbon. But the researcher who ran my lab, he was a very big fan of Rife and all of his research. And he created something that he called its photobiomodulation. And so he used pulsed lights, and he had these LED lights that he hooked up to the Rife frequencies. And you could use a different spectrum. Like if you needed to get deep tissue or muscle, you'd use infrared. Or ultraviolet to disinfect the skin, but these light frequencies actually healed. My wife injured her back surfing while we were there, and he was like, "Oh, just put the light on it." And I was like, "Come on, like you're a scientist, really? A light for like a back injury?" He's like, "No, trust me." And so she just held this pulsing light on her back for 20 minutes, and before she couldn't even stand up straight, and she could walk fine, didn't have any problems after that. So that changed my mind. And this guy, talking about like med beds, this guy was building, he was retrofitting tanning beds and taking the lights out and replacing the tanning bed lights with LED lights that were hooked up to his frequencies. So you literally just, strip down like you're going to get in a tanning bed, but instead of getting doused with, cancer causing UVA, UVB radiation, you're getting photobiomodulation frequencies that are in tune with human health, and supposedly the effects are really good, but he didn't get funding. All of our research there got shut down. So that's part of why carbon capture showed I'm trying to start it back up. But I definitely believe that that's true. And what Rebecca was saying, the frequency is the key. because every living thing, that's what Wright discovered, every living thing has a frequency, and you can either be in harmony with that and enhance the life, or you can be in what is it called, canceling that, and then you destroy it. And so that's what Wright found, is by firing the frequency, you could destroy any cell, or you could enhance the life of any cell. So it's very real, definitely.
Yes.
Just suppress.
And Oren, before we go to you, I want to make a comment. Vicky Valancourt is the devil. That's what Mama said. Now, Oren, go ahead.
Fair enough. There's so many spirals I want to go down. Sound frequency.
I'm gonna do La Oblongata.
I know, right? For real. I feel like Sonya. I'm just spinning. So the whole sound frequency is something that I had a really magical experience with. I can't remember the man's name, but he was the right-hand man of Howard Hughes. He was one of Howard Hughes' top developers. He had this experience where aliens came to him in a dream and told him to go and build this thing in the middle of the desert, in like the high desert in California. It's about an hour from 29 Palms. It's called the Integratron, right? This guy had a dream. These aliens told him to go build this thing. He built, it's a dome structure that's 2 stories high. It has no metal in its construction at all. And he built it in the place that he saw in his dream. And it turned out that place has 3 ancient aquifers underground that meet in the center. And there's like all these gravitational fields and all this weird stuff that goes on there. And the women who ended up buying the property from him now do quartz crystal bowl sound bath healing ceremonies. That stuff is very much real. And when you tie into God, what else was DJ just talking about? I just had a complete blank. The light frequency thing. So I didn't get into it when we did the introductions, but I'm very much involved in natural and original types of healing. I'm a certified herbalist. I'm a Reiki master teacher. I teach meditation. I do massage and acupressure, all this stuff. And when I first started building my practice after returning home to the East Coast, my father turned me on to this stuff called spectrochromography. And it was originally discovered by a man in India in the late 1800s. And he would take land, like, because a lot of people don't realize, but like India was still experiencing like their dark ages while we were like post-industrial revolution. And so he would take these dichromatic sheets of glass and put them into lanterns with candles in them, and would use different types of light to heal people from all sorts of different ailments. And his work was picked up by a woman at the Brigham and Women's Research Hospital I think in Philly, and she was doing the same thing. She was healing stuff that people were going to die from otherwise: kidney infections, blood infections, muscle constrictions as a result of burns, and all of this stuff was documented and proven to work. And both the original scientist, his son, and the woman in Pennsylvania, all of them were attacked and discredited as being charlatans and snake oil salesmen. But the interesting, so I ended up buying a kit that you can get, just like, it's like a simple light, and they'll give you all the different colored gels, just like as if you were like running a theater. And as somebody who suffered, from severe asthma, there were multiple times where I was in the throes of such a bad asthma attack that like there was no way an ambulance was going to get to me in time. And I used this light machine, and it didn't cure the situation, but it got me to a place where I was no longer in danger, and then was able to take myself to a hospital. So yeah, that technology is all of that stuff is all that, just as much as they control and prevent us from understanding the advanced technology, they also prevent us from understanding the basic technology of nature, of our world. People don't realize, but all of the major cathedrals in Europe and all over the world were built to specific specifications, because when you play harmonic tones in those cathedrals, they reverberate off the walls and literally create a biological healing experience. And then when you add in that they're burning these incenses that have healing properties, both biologically and neurologically stimulating properties, like frankincense and copal and dragon's blood, you combine these things, and that's where people are, they're like, oh, I'm having this divinely God experience. It's like, no, you're just being healed by by the nature and the natural way of our universe, because everything is frequency. But then they co-opted it and used it as a way to manipulate and control the unwashed muggles, as I like to refer to them.
Sonya, do you have any experience with healing frequencies, or is that something you've researched or interested in?
What I would tell you is this: I have joined the spiritual journey as of recently, and I will tell you those sounds, oh my goodness, they are so soothing and so relaxing. And I do have them on my phone now when I need to go to sleep, or when I have those issues with the Schumann resonance and, you know, between getting grounded outside. But the healing bowls, yeah, they do help a lot with the headaches, sleeping, everything. So yeah, I'm going down all of that as of late, and I'm loving it.
Good. DJ, yes, you have your hand up.
Are you guys familiar with cymatics and the study of like sound and language? And so there's many researchers who believe that ancient languages such as ancient Hebrew were spoken when a human spoke them. They could actually create these sacred patterns of geometry through their vibrations. Oh yeah, I see the Masaru Emoto book, Hidden Messages in Water. I actually did the rice experiment myself, and I made sake, and I have it on YouTube of me tasting it, and the other two were just moldy. And the only difference was I said I love you to one, I said you're an idiot to another, and I ignored the third. And the one that I ignored and the one that I was mean to grew mold, just rice. And I boiled it all in the same pot, boiled the jars so they were sterile. Sealed them for 30 days, put them in the same right next to each other. The two that were ignored or negative energy sent towards, they were moldy. And the one that I said I love you to, it literally produced sake. And so vibration is true, but what has happened is all of our modern languages have been corrupted, kind of like what Bill Gates did with the operating system of computers. He corrupted it. So now you need constant updates. And our language is the operating system of the human intellect and human society, because that's how we communicate with each other. So they've corrupted language. And so our own interactions and our own psychological mental health needs constant updates from the church, from the government, from all of that. And so it's actually the way we speak to ourselves has to change, because those vibrations, when you look at like ancient Hebrew, the letters, just looking at the letters causes certain vibrations within the brain. And so even the written language causes vibrations just like the spoken language does. So I just want to add on to that.
I could not agree with you more. Could not agree with you more.
One of the big things that I teach my Reiki and my meditation students is when you're learning about the chakra systems and what energies each chakra center is associated with, we refer to the throat chakra is referred to as the God chakra. So and I'm pagan as all ends, but I love the Bible and the references and stuff that the Bible gives you. In Genesis, when the Bible says God said, "Let there be light," and there was light, that's an allegorical reference for the power of the God chakra, right? When we speak, we're acting as a divine being because we're taking thoughts and emotions, which are internal frequencies from another dimension, and we're converting them into a vibration that is a physical manifested thing in this reality. It's like when you hear the stories of like all the miracles that Jesus did, it's like he would say, "Be healed," and people would be healed because he could put that intention into the vibration that he was speaking, and it would have an effect on the being in front of him. And I think that from a cultural standpoint, one of the other things I always try and like push on my students, there's this weird cultural movement towards when you're laughing, when you think something is really funny and when you think it's hilarious, people say, "I'm dead." And what's interesting about that is when you're in a happy place, when you're laughing, when you're feeling good, you are in a super powerful, high vibrational, creative frequency. And then culturally, we're now using that energy to say something like, "Oh, I'm dead." It's like you're literally creating a dissonance in your physical and emotional and spiritual vibration and the vibration that you're creating in the world. So I think that's really there's so many places where words have been corrupted, where that's another big part of the de-education agenda of our public schooling system, is that not only are we denying applying this information to people. But then on top of that, when you get down to the semantics and the etymology of how people use words incorrectly, I mean, the legal system is a great example. When they read you your rights and then you say, I understand, instead of I comprehend, you are now agreeing that you are standing under what they just said. You are verbally and vibrationally subjugating yourself to the authority of, whoever. So it has to do with healing. It has to do with, like you said, psychology, intelligence, and every aspect of our lives is all connected through that vibration that we create and how we create that vibration.
Yes, DJ.
Yeah, and I think it's not even hidden from us, because I consider myself a Christian and I grew up reading the Bible. But if you go to Genesis 11:7, it says right there, the Lord said, come, let us go down and confuse their language so that they will not understand one another's speech. Like, our controllers put it into our own Bible. I still believe Jesus was real. I believe that the Bible is the word of God, but it's been edited by the people who wanted to control us. And they put it right there, Genesis 11:7. Go to your own Bible and read it. God saw that humans, when they could communicate, could do anything that they set their minds to. So God himself, apparently in the Bible, said, let's go down there and confuse their language so that they can't speak. And that's so powerful that, the internet is now bringing us back together, and we're starting to speak one language of the Great Awakening. So,
Oren, did you have something?
Yeah. So, oh my God, this is one of my favorite new subjects. I also love the Bible. I love all ancient texts, and I like to study as much as I can from different perspectives. And there's this really interesting thing that's been coming up a lot lately since I've been on TikTok and engaging with people from so many different perspectives. There's this theory that the Bible was, like you said, very much co-opted for control mechanism. But there's all these interesting verses. So there is a growing belief in the alternate communities that the entire idea of the control mechanisms that come out of the Bible are like when the Bible talks about the God in the Bible saying all these things, it's not actually the Most High, the Supreme Creator, because there's multiple places throughout the Bible where it's referred to that Lucifer is the god of this world. When Lucifer fell from heaven, he was given dominion over the earth. And when you think about like why would the Creator confuse us with language? That's not something the divine, all source would do. But it is something that the devil would do for the purpose of trying to divide and conquer the entire world of man. Because the devil can get the people who are easy to subjugate to, sin and all of these negative things. But how is the devil going to trick all of the good people into following him? Well, with a whole bunch of manipulation and a whole bunch of deception that gets fed into a book that has power and that is real, but has now been manipulated. So, because it's like when you think about love versus hate, it's like there's in my personal experience, the majority of Christians out there are super negative and super hateful people. There's a lot of amazing Christians out there that I consider true Christians, people who don't judge, people who have nothing but love in their heart for all of creation. But then there's all these other tiny little groups within, the dissemination, and people tie it back to the Roman Catholic Church, right? So the Romans, if you look at history, were A, the ones that killed Jesus, and B, they used to feed Christians to the lions for fun. So there's this whole idea that the evil corruption actually won and took over the church, and everything that has happened since the implementation of the Roman Catholic Church has been about division. And like when you go to Catholic Church and you do the communion, it's like, for anybody who hasn't studied the occult like I have, when you go and you take that communion, you are literally participating in a mock blood sacrifice. Eat my flesh and drink my blood? No, thank you, vampire Jesus. I think I'm going to refrain, because I'm not making. That's the other thing the Bible says. You shall make no covenant with any God or any being other than me. Call no man Lord, call no man Father but me. And yet everybody's all like, Jesus, take the wheel. I'm pretty sure God didn't give us free will so that we would turn it over to his kid. But that's just my time.
Dirty Dan?
So a couple things, all based on what DJ and Oren are talking about. With Matthew 18:21, when 2 or 3 gather in his name, it is then he comes. He doesn't there's no specification in the original text of that of who he is. It's not referring to a God or the God or Jesus at that point. And I have something tattooed on my arm at the very base of this roadmap of my life that I've lived. It says Matthew, house of the Lord. And when they are talking about that being baptized and raised Roman Catholic, I felt that it wasn't talking about like a lord or a lordship or a lord, but more of a lordship as in the Roman times, as in when there were kings and hierarchies of everything. And I always related back to that, and that verse has so much more meaning than what we're going to get into here. Just like Rebecca just asked, which God is always my question. Exactly. It's who at the time is being made to be looked up to or to be followed. It's not about just one greater thing or multiple greater things that are of equal but different paths up there. It's who are we supposed to be following? What script are we supposed to be reading from? Which is the true definition of a sin. I agree. DJ, I saw your hand go up there.
Yeah, a few things came to mind on that, because I often have disagreements with my family, because I grew up very strict religious, and then I left the faith and went my own way. And my dad always asked me, like, what's your compass? How do you know what's right or wrong? And I'm like, God gave me mirror neurons, which means when I see someone experiencing pain, I feel that pain. And I recognize that emotions can cause pain. And so I recognize that if I do something to someone that would cause them pain, that's wrong, So
exactly,
I don't need to read in a Bible that it's wrong to rape a child, because I recognize that that's wrong, So I don't need that. And so that's where we sort of get off with the strict religious people who, read from the book. And if it doesn't say it, if they didn't read it in the book, then it's not true. To me, that's like, well, humans wrote that book. Humans edited that book. That was printed probably in China by slaves, the book you're reading right now. So let's get off our high horse and let's stop like deifying a book, dead words on a page that only have life when your consciousness reads it. And let's look at what consciousness is. And that's what Christ means, is Christos, which just means anointed, the anointed one. And the anointing, as I see Oren, I'm sure you're going to talk about the Kundalini rising and the baptism of your own. I don't know all the terminology. I've been looking into that because I have not experienced that, but I would love to. But I also believe that it is self-enlightenment, and it is the Christ consciousness. And part of my theory, I shouldn't be talking about this because I'm representing companies, but this is my own personal theories right now. But
you disclose that, you're good.
Jesus was a Jew, and he came to show that it wasn't just the chosen people that could now be God's chosen ones. It was any human, right? And now we've gotten to a point where it's like America exceptionalism. We've gotten to the point again where humanity's come to a pinnacle, and America represents the finest of America. We talk about all the innovation in that, and everyone wants to be that. And I think the Great Awakening, when you think about the word apocalypse, it means revelation, which also means disclosure. It just means the revealing. It means pulling back the curtain on the Wizard of Oz. And suddenly, I think the second coming of Christ symbolically is that everyone is an American. You don't have to be born an American to be a free spirit and to be an independent human. And we're all coming together. And to me, that's the Great Awakening. And that's why it's going worldwide. So I'll pass on.
Rebecca is chomping at the bit to let loose here. Go for it.
Literally like jumping out of my chair, agreeing with everything you guys are saying. And to kind of like to wrap it up, like the second coming of Christ, if Jesus represents love, right? And leading with love and light is what we're really supposed to be doing. And to tie in the true definition of a sin, because I know that you guys can't hear my comments in the chat, so I'll speak it. I'm like typing away like a mad woman. I'm like, oh shit, nobody can say, oh shoot, damn.
You're fine. You're fine.
Go ahead. Dirty Dan's just falling out of his chair. But the true definition of a sin is anything that goes against your own morals and beliefs. And for you to worship anything besides the God, the source, the divineness inside of you is complete lunacy. And I can't, that's what I can't wrap my head around, is when I get these people that come at me with, oh, you need to find Jesus, you need to believe in God, you need to do all these things. I do, because I believe in my God. I believe in my source, which is the key to all of it, and all of it coming together in that triangle, in that connection is what needs to happen. And I completely agree with, oh, my squares just changed. I completely agree with you. And, you know, the Great Awakening, I mean, that is what my whole thing is about this map. And I've talked to the creator of the map, and I've had personal conversations with him. I tried to get him on this, but it didn't end up happening, scheduling conflicts. But I mean, it's just, you know, he talks about doing the Kundalini awakening. He talks about doing, you know, DMT and complete darkness. He talks about having these profound connecting experiences with the divine nature of our reality that has been suppressed by indoctrination and fear and control and negative loosh seeking. So that's just, I'm rambling now.
We're going to wrap up segment 2, but let's see. Yes, Dirty Dan, you have a question or pointing a finger?
So I was just pointing to my hand raised very politely up there.
Well, it's actually on the other side of the screen. So
on mine so I'll go this way then for the whatever.
Thank you.
And just to continue this, but more of, I don't want to go against anything said, but more of a real life everyday aspect. This is the same thing for, you know, your work, the way you live your life every day. It's not even just about a study or a self-study. It's the whole process. And I know someone here is related to or involved with OSHA regulations pretty well, as he raises in. And I break them quite frequently because I don't feel that some of them are the right way. And I look at myself and I say, oh, excuse me. Am I really breaking a rule if I feel this isn't able to be understood well enough, and I'll get hurt doing it that way? You know, it's literally Mike Rowe and Dirty Jobs. He went to a sheep farmer, and they were castrating the sheep, and per the SPCA.
I can help fill this in for you.
Per the SPCA guidelines of how to properly, quote unquote, castrate the sheep, cause them to be in pain, curled up in a corner on the ground for hours upon hours, sometimes days. And when he saw the farmer do it the way he's done it for years, they were good in 10 minutes, like nothing ever happened, able to live their life again, pain-free, scotch-free. And you can literally follow that process for anything and everything you do, from work to personal life to whatever. It's not just about a religious book. It is literally every day, every part of your life. That sometimes what is written isn't always the best. And if it goes against the way you feel about it, then don't do it. As long as your way you are comfortable with, which can allow ultimately for your own safety.
It also goes into those massive turning points that you have to have for yourself, which Mike Rowe also talked about on that, is those moments of anagnorisis and peripatia, where you have these realizations, which is going into the awakening, right? You have these realizations of, holy shit, I'm on the wrong side. Like, this isn't what I believe in. This isn't what I vibe with. And you have those massive turning points and that reality shift and that knowledge coming in, because you're constantly learning and you're constantly gaining information that elevates your perspective and elevates your consciousness and raises the vibration for the good of everything, leading with light and love.
Right. And I'm not saying like go on a high lift 150 feet in the air and don't harness in or rope in, you know, that's just a poor choice. But being a choice. Still a choice. I said that, but it's a poor choice in that case, where a guideline would indeed help rather than hinder you. There were certain times in my emergency response career that doing what they said would have gotten me killed and or others killed by becoming stuck and unable to be freed in a bad situation. So we chose, I was brought up by old school guys. We chose to do what we knew would work and get us out of there safe with the least amount of damage, rather than following the guidelines, getting stuck through a wall or a small opening trying to get out.
I understand what you're saying. I have a comment on that before you respond, if you don't care.
Well, in regards to the emergency response, it's your rules and regulations are dictated by a lot of people who've never been in that situation.
Exactly.
And when you're in that situation and someone's life is on the line, if you don't react with your gut, you lose people. You don't save people. You don't save structures, and it's a ridiculous thing. I'm probably in the myriad of contractors and companies I've had to deal with, OSHA's least favorite person. There are ways to appeal and question their decisions, and it's a right and an exercise that anybody in the safety field should most definitely take advantage of. But they're fairly open with the fact that many of their rules and regulations defy research and data that they have at that time and fly in the face of it, but it is still in practice because it is still in code, and code has not changed, and code has to be reviewed, and it's a bureaucratic process more than a common sense process. And if people had any idea when COVID broke out, and this is not to get on that subject, but just as an example, OSHA provided a workplace preparedness training, and so did the World Health Organization. I received both of those. They need to determine if we're going to follow what they gave us as guidelines or if what they are telling the public to do is right, because they are completely different things.
Two different, very, very different things. Absolutely.
Yeah,
AURON.
I just wanted to kind of draw a parallel. So like all the stuff that we were just talking about with faith and religion and sin and stuff, the whole inner compass thing, right? The way that I approach it with a lot of my students is people don't realize, but like you got to bring up the psychology of the ego, right? I think the biggest problem is that so many people have been conditioned to be on autopilot that they don't want to take responsibility for assessing and making a logical decision, whether that has to do with, deciding whether or not your actions are going to hurt other people, or whether it's, like people are in autopilot and in their ego or their shadow self. And so they just follow the rules. It's like we're conditioned to, stop at the red light, even though it's 2 o'clock in the morning and there's no cars anywhere. There's same thing with whether it's OSHA or whether it's religion, people want to default the responsibility, whether it's to, your faith or your job or whatever. And at the end of the day, I think that level of discernment and that ability to decide what is right is something that we can only get there if we take on 100% of the responsibility for everything in our life. And I think that's where people get stuck, is because we're conditioned to be on autopilot and we're afraid to take responsibility because our responsibility for everything has been taken from us, whether it's from our priests and our pastors or our the overlords at our jobs or the teachers in the school. It's like our whole lives, everything is about relinquishing your power and relinquishing your responsibility. And as a result, that's how we're in this mess that we're in right now, as far as like everything in the world, from politics to science to spirituality.
DJ?
Yeah, and on top of that, I think also people have been de-incentivized to question things and question the way things are. And I think it was the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And he talked about a young girl was cooking pot roast with her mother, and the mother cut off the 2 ends of the pot roast, threw them away, and then put the pot roast in the oven. And the daughter's like, well, Mom, why did you cut off the ends? And the mother started answering and came up with some answer like, oh, it helps the juice flow better. And then she's like, actually, I just did it because your grandma did it. And so they went to ask the grandma, Grandma, why did you always cut the ends off of the pot roast when you made them when I was a kid? And the mom said, oh, well, because we had a tiny oven and a tiny pan and the pot roast didn't fit in it. So I had to cut the ends off and throw it away. But like these habits get passed on generation to generation, and we never stop and question, is this the right way? And our society now reinforces that because they make us feel so powerless that how could we know better than the state? How could we know better than the CDC? Or how could we know better than CNN or whatever? So I think people have disempowered themselves and forgotten that they have the right and, in fact, the duty to question the things that they're told to do.
Definitely. We're going to take a break, and we'll come back and wrap it up with segment 3. What are we listening to, Dirty Dan?
You're listening to Here to Chew Bubblegum. Sorry, Rebecca, I beat you there. And coming from the barbecue man, you never slice the ends of your meat off. Ever. Get a bigger oven.
And we'll be right back. Hey everyone, this is Goose from Here to Chew Bubblegum. I want to tell you about my friend T-Shirt Joe at FastCustomShirts.com. T-Shirt Joe is your go-to guy for all your custom work. Also, you can check out their website and find artist originals, college shirts, comics, famous folk, fetish, military, movie shirts, occupations, podcast and website shirts, plus he has face masks and many other items over at FastCustomShirts.com. While there at their website, you can sign up for their newsletter. Or you can give Joe a call at area code 361-814-9212. That's 361-814-9212 to contact my friend T-Shirt Joe at FastCustomShirts.com.
Take a lighter look into the darker side of the world. Join Elliot, Gertie, and Beagle as they jump into the dark abyss of hauntings, fables, UFOs, and beyond. The Spooky Family Podcast. You can find them where you listen to quality podcasts.
You're listening to Here to Chew Bubblegum. If Abraham Lincoln were alive, he'd listen, but he's dead.
You are back with Here to Chew Bubblegum. This is Rebecca with Short Shit Show, and we are doing the Roundtable with Goose, Dirty Dan, Sonya, AURON, Justin Perkins, and DJ, is it Daryl? Daryl, DJ Nicke.
Yeah, my friends call me DJ.
DJ, okay.
Very good job, Rebecca.
Nicke the second.
Rebecca is also the host of Honest Rebecca Thoughts that you can hear on Here to Chew Bubblegum. And we're back, segment 3. I want to start out by thanking everyone for taking part in this roundtable. This is probably, in my opinion, the best roundtable that we've ever had. This has been loads of fun. Sonya, tell our listeners where they can find you and how to support you and stuff, and how they can contact you.
Okay, so my main, because I'm banned on probably every platform. No, my main account is through TikTok, and it's 2A Patriot Mama 4.0. I also have backup accounts, but that, the numbers go higher. Anyway, just in case. But the organization that I support is the OUR Rescue. And, and I tell everybody, do your research on your organizations, but that's the one that I have chosen to support because they have, their program is from the rescue all the way to the placement. They do the aftercare program. And the money that gets donated goes to all of this. They primarily, obviously, only work overseas because they're not part of the government. The head of it, Tim Ballard, used to work for Homeland Security, but decided to leave Homeland Security when he wanted to make a bigger difference. He was only limited to do certain things with the government. So now he works overseas with like Nazarene Fund, who is Glenn Beck. And that's where the children are coming from. They're primarily coming from overseas because the customer is here. We are the number one customer. We are infested with pedophiles in the United States, and they pay a lot of money. So that's where they're getting their children from, is overseas. So that's where OUR Rescue works, and that they're only allowed to work overseas. They're not allowed to work within the United States because the government handles that portion of it. So that's who I support, but I always tell everybody, do your research. You can pick the organization of your liking, but definitely do your research on how much money the organization keeps. They are an A-rated. They only keep 13 to 15% of the donations, which is very, very low. So I prefer to send my money where the money is primarily going to the rescue.
Well, thank you very much, Sonya, and we will have you back on the show in the future. AURON, what about you?
So I am in the process of developing my website. Right now, I'm doing my primary communications. I'm just got on Twitch not too long ago. I do daily discussions as well as daily guided meditations. I'm a Reiki master teacher. I'm a massage therapist, a certified herbalist. I'm in the process of rebranding and relaunching my apothecary business. I make natural body products and medicinals for people for any ailment that you have. I teach meditation and the best way to reach me is on Twitch. My handle is The Original Wicked Wolf. You can also reach out directly, TheOriginalWickedWolf at gmail.com. I am The Wicked Wolf on TikTok, although like the two ladies on either side of me right now, I'm constantly banned. I just lost my main account at 40,000 followers. So that's pretty much it. Direct email and Instagram, the.wicked.wolf. Great ways to reach out to me. I love to help anybody in any way that I can with any of the skills and knowledge that I've developed for myself.
Justin?
Talk Junkie. It's on all the big podcast platforms. It's on YouTube, same name. It's recently back on YouTube with video. It was off for a while. I had a little problem with their algorithm. Social media, finally, I held out against that for as long as I could. It is on Facebook at Talk Junkie. You can just reach out to me personally at author J Perkins on Instagram. Emails talkjunkie@gmail.com. Both my books are available. It doesn't matter where you live, you can order them from the Red Spotted Newt, READ, Red Spotted Newt in Hazard, Kentucky. She will deliver, and it is cheaper than Amazon. I price it that way for a reason. I'd prefer you use a local business. You can get them on Amazon, though. They're available for Amazon Prime, free shipping. New book will not be out in October due to possibly working out a deal with doing something different with it than it originally was supposed to be. That's about it.
Tell us the name of the new book.
That's not. I really don't know.
Oh, okay.
I mean, generally the way I do it is I just go through everything I got. I grab the pieces I like that kind of fit together. And the first book was very Eastern Kentucky based, and so Cold Kingdom was it. And then the second book was a little darker and had a little different vibe to it, so it was Creating the Perfect Slaves. And then tentatively right now, the original name was going to be The Emptiness That Fills the Cup, but it may end up being two books. It may end up being that and a book called Songbook, because I've had Songbook around for a long time,
right.
And it's a lot of songs that got written, but just the lyrical end of it, the music never got written, so more than likely those two are not going to fit well together. But if the deal goes through with the publisher, it will be actually pieces they selected from the first two books along with new content, and it be released that way. It's dependent on what happens.
Well, may I recommend Froggies for the name of the book?
I like that.
Thank you. Thank you. DJ?
Yeah, my name is DJ, or Daryl Jonathan Nicke II is my business name, and I've also been banned off of every social media platform, which is why I went back to my birth name. So actually recently I logged into our business account for Facebook from my computer, even though I had a VPN going, and within 15 minutes, Facebook locked the entire account. So I'm marked globally. Somehow they're tracking me to where I can't even start up new accounts anymore. They get zapped within seconds. And Sonya, I just want to mention also, I hugely support Operation Underground Railroad and Tim Ballard. And I'm sure people have heard of the movie that's coming out about Tim Ballard starring Jim Caviezel. And that's the true story of Tim Ballard's life and how he had to quit the Department of Homeland Security so that he could go and rescue these children. It's an amazing story. And if you have the stomach for it, I recommend, I don't know if you've seen it, Sonya, the documentary Operation Toussaint. That's Operation then Toussant, Operation Toussaint. That documentary, I was in tears the whole time. And straight after that, I saw it early 2020. And I went out, I held up a picture before, I'll hold it up again because I signed up and became an abolitionist as soon as I saw the film, and they send you this beautiful painting, which I haven't had a chance to frame yet because my wife and I are poor, but that's the picture. It's a picture of, inspired by the original Underground Railroad carrying slaves, but it's a man carrying a child wrapped in the American flag to safety. So it's just a beautiful organization. If you can support them, I highly recommend it. My personal project, though, sorry to get back to that, is Carbon Capture Shield, carboncaptureshield.com. And we're out to save the soil rather than saving our souls. We're saving the Earth's soul, its soil. And so check us out at carboncaptureshield.com, supported by Ingersoll Lockwood. It's one of their projects to really push humanity forward and accelerate the Great Awakening. Because if we can wake people up to what we've been doing to our planet, our Mother Earth, and how we've been treating it, that will be a big wake-up call and will help us to get over the cognitive dissonance to see what we've been doing to our fellow humans and even our fellow animals on this planet. And I think the soil is a good first step where we can bring the left and the right together in one cohesive unit for change. So that's carboncaptureshield.com if you get a chance. And I'm inundated with contact at the moment, so please don't reach out directly. But if you want to follow what I do, I run Secure Comms is a channel on Telegram, and there's a chat room which only has a couple hundred people in it. So if you want to yell at me, that's a good place to do it. I get a lot of that. But if you want to have a good conversation too, I'm always up for that when I have time. So that's it for me.
Well, thank you very much, DJ, AURON, Sonya, and Justin. Thank you very much for coming in and being part of this, what will be a two-part series on this roundtable. Rebecca, you have a question, I think, for DJ and Justin. Go ahead, and we'll wrap it up.
I do. I've been not as involved as Dirty Dan, because I'm pretty sure he's lost several hours down the Ingersoll Lockwood website rabbit holes. But what I found interesting is when I was doing some research and I found all of the books that Ingersoll had written, the Time Travelers with Baron Trump and his dog and everything. And I was looking at, which it's changed now, so thank you for invalidating my searches. But the library is now gone. And it had all of the books written except one that I found, and I just didn't know what your thoughts on it. DJ, both from being involved with Ingersoll, and then Justin from an author standpoint. I started reading it. It's very, very interesting. But it's in varying moods, and it was published in Saratoga Springs, New York by Ingersoll Lockwood. And I wanted to know, A, if you both have heard of it, and B, why it's not in, well, the library doesn't exist, but why it wasn't in the library to begin with.
It's under construction.
I have questions. Well, semantics.
I've heard of that book and read the introduction, but I'm not sure. I don't have any control over the Ingersoll Lockwood website. I'm sort of an outsider in that aspect. But yeah, I find all of his books very fascinating. And isn't that the introduction where he talks about he's lightening his bark and sailing off to the afterlife?
Yeah, that's what we talked about in the first podcast.
I'm gonna mute you. And it also is it's all like poetry. There's some what made me think of it too is there's songs in here that don't have music going to them, but there's actually like lyrics and stuff, and it'll say like chorus and refrain and everything of that. And it's written, and I think what really drew me to it is I've studied Shakespeare. I was an English major in college, and it's written in that language almost, in very old English, which is intriguing to me. So I just didn't know if either one of you had heard of it or read it. I started reading it. As you can see, I've marked some pages on here. It's very interesting.
Share some type of a link where I could find something about that. I would be interested in that. I'm interested in Ingersoll Lockwood, the person, as an author, independently than from the website. The website itself I'm very interested in, and I have a lot of questions about not only the website and its creators, but the
motivation behind its creation.
No, I'm trying to be as understanding as the inability to trace down any physical location, anything in proving this exists, from national registries to searches with DC Secretary of State to all the donation sites to things like Cithril. When you click on Cithril, you go down to the phone number, you go down to the address. That'll actually take you to an address and phone number owned by NOLA Foods or a Nicke 504 LLC, which works directly under the Nicke Group. None of the phone numbers, none of the physical locations, nothing really add up. Most of those go to companies that rent out just by the hour meeting rooms. Actually, I've seen the physical office. I've got a 3D tour and everything of the office where they have their location set as on the website, and it's kind of a rent by hour deal. Phone number goes to a phone service, things like that. I have a lot of questions about the Ingersoll Lockwood site itself.
Just as a side point, I am about 55 minutes from the Nicke Group's headquarters in Albany, New York, if you want me to do some investigation.
I've had contact with them, not a lot of response. All the response I get is outside of that group, but, any information, because like I said, for what they are, anonymity is an important thing. So, I may be missing things I'm not supposed to see, and I understand that completely,
Anybody have it?
Oh, God. I was waiting for this. I'm like holding my breath. I'm like, okay, so I did the research that you did as far as the address. And, I did find the same thing. I looked up the real estate, and I did find that it is an open floor concept for 1025, Suite 1025, and which I thought was very odd that 10 plus 2 plus 5 is 17. And the address is 1717. But I did look up real estate and a lot of real estate agents, but I also wanted to check who else obviously was there. And, I did see a lot of other companies or whatever. And I automatically said, there's no way with this open floor concept that this Ingersoll Lockwood is physically there. But what I did find with, there was a few LLCs, I think there was 3 that were tied together with the ICCACK, which actually caught my attention big time for what I do. And that's the International Criminal Court Against Child Kidnapping.org. And then there was also a tribunal court against child kidnapping, within the same company. And I did spend a good 2 or 3 days on that website, the organization website. And basically what they do is it's crimes against children, crimes against humanity. They're trying to find all of the corrupt judges, CPS, but all of that. And I found that to be very interesting to be in the same location as, but also to be odd, to be in an open floor space plan doing what they do. I don't think that organization is there either. And I just had some type of feeling that the two were tied together.
Well, a lot of times it's cheaper, to not have a physical space. And if you're in the defense contract industry, I could understand wanting to protect the security of that. LoopNet is the company that actually rents out the 10th floor. Server Corp is who owns the number and does all that stuff. Tishman Speyer, they also rent stuff in that building. I talked to their general manager, but they don't deal with the 10th floor. I had to talk to LoopNet, and they're the one giving me the tour, and they're the one actually deals with that 10th floor location.
Tell them about the real estate photographs, Sonya.
Well, also when I went into all of the different real estate agencies that do list that exact suite, I thought it was very odd that when they have all the pictures up now, the floor plan and everything, they have every single real estate agent uses these pictures, but there's one picture that caught my attention. It is the 10th floor, but there's a picture of the elevators. I say there's about 6 to 8 elevators, and there's a man standing there, and it's a professional photo done by obviously a real estate agent, but every single one of them. Instead of it showing the 10th floor, it shows the 17th floor in the real estate agent pictures, which I thought was interesting. I don't know. I'm just very fixated on the number 17 for reasons obvious, but
I think the whole Ingersoll Lockwood website is, fascinating in itself.
We've all, I know we've all spent a lot of time on it, finding the Easter eggs, finding the stuff. And it's a lot of, Nikola Tesla, HARP, D-Class. There's a lot of stuff on that website. And I spent many, many, many sleepless nights on there.
You're muted, Dirty Dan, by the way.
I know, I muted him.
I was just gonna say I've made many, many sleepless nights looking on there.
Well, I've had meetings with several people on the board, and I can say they're definitely very real, and they're definitely who they say they are, and they're definitely, well, I took a big risk. My wife and I talked about it, and thankfully I married a warrior like me, and she was like, there's no point hiding, and if they're going to kill you, we got to reach out to them and try and move forward, because they're either going to kill you or they're going to help you, and so we made that choice, and we wanted to try. And I didn't bring any of my friends into it, because I had a lot of friends who I wanted to work with them also, and I reached out to them, and I tested them in my own ways, and tried to see if they wanted to own everything that I was doing, or if they just wanted to support it, if they were actually giving good advice, if they were setting me up for traps. I had my eyes open, and I've been pleasantly surprised every step of the way. The support that I've gotten has been absolutely amazing. It's coaching and not just business, but also morally and emotionally supportive, and guidance in that sense, really helping me look out for landmines. I mean, every step of the way, and they're truly about helping have the biggest impact possible, and keeping me focused as well. And so what I feel is I'm not speaking on their behalf, because they don't tell me. But this is what I think, and why I decided to risk reaching out to them. We know that the CIA, through In-Q-Tel, they founded Google and they finance it. We know that Facebook was DARPA's Project LifeLog, and it's just a changeover. We know that the bad people are using private corporations to get around the restrictions of governments to operate, and then they contract with private citizens who then do their dirty work. What if the good guys decided to do the same thing, but for good? And what if Ingersoll Lockwood is one of their prongs to do that? That's a theory that I thought was worth testing. And so far, so good. If I disappear suddenly, then we'll know that the experiment was also a success, but not the way I had hoped. But so far, it seems that it's legit, and I'm just as excited every time there's an update. I'm usually informed by the dig groups that are on Telegram. I'd go and check them before I checked my email to see what's been happening. So the citizen researchers are amazing. Sorry, Dirty Dan.
In regards to your Telegram comment there, I follow several different Ingersoll Lockwood channels, I guess they're called, on there. I can send them to whoever wants to be included in them if they're not already. And SGS is someone's name with no information in the bio, which I thought was a little interesting. And I reached out to them twice so far. The first message was read. The second one has not been, but it was very recent. And the second message was in regards to a cyber defense magazine, which I've been able to, with the help of someone else in here, confirm is registered to them as the owner. So I think, DJ, you understand what I'm saying. Justin already knows. I am really, really hoping, for so many different reasons, that I do end up being able to get some sort of correspondence from that, just because that would be an amazing gate to have open, and also to be able to maybe field some sort of what's the right word I want to say here? Field some sort of navigation into confirmation of what your hypothesis is the good, the prong for the good, going against all those channels of the bad.
And this is my own personal opinion, Dirty Dan. I don't have any inside information. If I did, I would share it with you.
Right.
I think that company, the website, that person, I think they are very aware of you, me, this show, and I think in time we will maybe get some answers. I mean, I'm not asking for inside information, but I think that we will get the knowledge that we seek. Oren, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I'm just curious. When you said SGS, what SGS as in like Stargate Security? What's this?
No, if you go on the board of directors page on Ingersoll Lockwood, you'll earn DJ. I think. Go ahead, DJ. I'll let you answer that.
It's Stephen G. Samuels, actually. And so Stephen G. Samuels was a personal associate of Ingersoll Lockwood, the man, back, sort of his protege. Okay. And so Ingersoll Lockwood passed on his vision for the future to Stephen G. Samuels. And then Stephen Samuels Jr. is one of the founders of Ingersoll Lockwood and also a founding member of the Department of Homeland Security. So
interesting. Okay.
And so when you see SGS, that's just Stephen G. Samuels.
So that's why it got me excited.
Sonya about all the spiritual stuff, and she's got to catch me up on all the Ingersoll Lockwood shit.
But yeah, and that's, I don't know if it could possibly be Junior or whom it is in regards to that. I feel as though my gut tells me it may be or a representative for or of him, just based on the fact that the time delay and whatnot, and it wasn't like a spam message I sent. Like, it was a very well thought out. The same way I actually got in contact with Jared Lysick of Adventures with Purpose, who I will plug on the close. I don't, and Ingersoll Lockwood, I did the same thing in all 26 bad girlfriend of grade school emails. I thought out what I wanted to say. I wasn't trying to make any flags come up based on what I said, but I wanted to let them know, hey, I mean well, this is who I am. This is what I would like to know. If there's any way you can help or answer that would be awesome.
Well, and let me make this comment, and I think Justin has something to say, and then we'll wrap things up and close it out. And the Ingersoll Lockwood website, we've talked about it for a long time on this show. And then, DJ, when we got you on with the first interview, we were just like blown away.
This 300-pound guy was ready to do a backflip.
And, I am happy, regardless of how all this turns out. I am happy to bring awareness to Ingersoll Lockwood the person and Ingersoll Lockwood the company, and also your company, Carbon Capture Shields, because I think that's a great thing that you are doing, and we need more people like that to do stuff like that to benefit humanity. And my hat's off to you. But I am happy that we have brought awareness to you and to Ingersoll Lockwood the company. Justin, I'll let you.
Well, I don't want anybody to misconstrue what I said. That as far as carbon capture went, the GoFundMe was in your name, established in the U.S. and Washington. I see no lack of legitimacy there. There's no lack of legitimacy whatsoever with the magazine. It was registered in, I believe, Las Vegas or in Nevada somewhere. By Mr. Samuels. I mean, there were just issues with links, and also, like again, I said, it being in the nature of business they do, that may be what they do, but I'm more interested in Carbon Capture Shield, not because of things I could or couldn't find, but in the science of it and the ideal behind it. I'm one of those guys that's all for the exploration of space, but I'm not one of those guys that says, hey, let's spend the next 50 years terraforming Mars and move there. Why don't we fix what we got here? And I think people doing programs like you've got is very, very important to that, and it's something that should be taken very seriously. And it's, I've always said that ideal. I forget I think he's a senator in Texas, the gentleman who I think lost his eye in combat. He's been really big on carbon capture inside of plants and things of that nature for fossil fuels burning and stuff. So, I mean, again, don't feel like that is me saying there's no legitimacy to any of it. There's just a lot of things. And it's such an amazing website and set up in such a way, it's so intriguing, it just sucks you in. And when it does, you get hooked. And, I've got questions about that. And Mr. Hemphill is supposed to be on my show. I don't know scheduling-wise if we're going to be able to do that, but, if that's somebody you're in contact with, I believe he's on your board. Again, don't feel like this is any type of attack whatsoever on individual programs. It's the website itself is just, it intrigues me, and I'm curious to why those things don't correlate or jive the way they should.
Yes, Dirty Dan.
And Justin, and DJ, feel free to step in here at any time. Justin, DJ and Carbon Capture Shield has something that they are hoping and planning to bring out called, or setting us up to be what he called backyard activists. And I am super excited to be able to hop on that and be a part of that, just for the simple fact of that science behind it and the ability to see firsthand live results right in front of you. DJ.
Well, and so I spent the last 10 years traveling the world and meeting with farmers all around the world, make documentaries about the hemp road trip in the U.S. We helped get hemp legalized federally in 2018 with the grassroots movement. I met farmers in Albania, Georgia, the country, Australia. I'm friends with farmers throughout Africa. And one thing I learned is that farming is in serious trouble. I mean, we are destroying the soil. What used to be, what I learned about as the Fertile Crescent is now the desert known as the Middle East. And that's through human intervention. And we're desertifying more and more land every year. And if I were to go to a farmer, and I went to many farmers, and I was like, hey, I've got a great solution for you. They're like, yeah, okay, thanks. Because they've been lied to consistently for the last 100 years by chemical manufacturers who want to sell their poisons that they can't sell during peacetime because they're weapons of war that they've turned and advertised to be weapons of farming. What we've done is we've killed all the life in the soil. That's why we're seeing the forest fires. I mean, sure, it's weather warfare as well, but the forest wouldn't be able to burn if there were enough earthworms to eat all of the leaf and detritus and turn that back into soil. So you wouldn't have forest fires. There wouldn't be flooding if the soil was alive. The way it's explained to me is you take a pile of flour and pour water on it and watch the erosion and the flooding. Now you allow life to transform that flour into bread, and it becomes a sponge. And that's the way the soil is supposed to be. So when the rain falls, it's supposed to be absorbed by the soil. Same thing with the carbon. The soil is a carbon sponge, and it's supposed to absorb everything that we put into the atmosphere that's in excess, and it reaches a natural equilibrium. But we've destroyed that because on a massive global scale, we're spraying toxic chemicals, we're sterilizing the earth, and we're injecting only the genetically modified crops that we want to grow, and we're growing them in chemical fertilizers and poisons, and we're destroying it. And so what Dirty Dan was talking about is we've designed a way, how do you fix that problem when you can't go to the farmers and fix it? Well, what I learned with the hemp road trip is you have to create a movement, and you have to create market forces that pull the farmers. And so in order to do that, I believe in the proverb that I hear, I doubt, I see, I believe, and I do, I understand. So if people hear about these solutions or the problems, they doubt it. You can show them a movie about it, which I can do, make a movie, they'll believe it. But if I give you a product that you can use in your backyard, and it increases the health and vibrance of your lawn while sequestering carbon and while eliminating all the toxic poisons. You know, Americans alone spray 60 million tons of poison on their lawns every year. No, maybe 60 million pounds. It's a ridiculous amount. But this is where our babies crawl. And if your baby eats a handful of dirt, now you've got to rush it to the emergency room. We can fix that in your own backyard through conscious consumerism. You're still acting as a consumer. You're not becoming an activist in the full sense, but you're buying a different product, taking care of your lawn consciously. Now you understand what it takes to care for the environment. Now you might think, what about Farmer Bob who grows my apples or my bananas? Now you can actually be a grassroots movement to start to encourage the farmers with your money by saying, hey, we'll pay more for that if it's carbon capture shield approved or if it's grown in a regenerative way. And so that's our idea. So we had a successful GoFundMe. We raised $20,000, which is going to help us now launch a Kickstarter campaign, which we just engaged with one of the best marketing companies in that space to launch this lawn care product, to give people the ability to actually be an activist and literally help save the environment in their own backyards. And then from there, we hope to start, a ripple that goes through the consciousness of humanity to say, wait a minute, I'm actually responsible for the dirt beneath my feet, and it's responsible for me. And so if I take care of that, then it's going to take better care of me. And so that's the idea there. So it might seem like sort of counterintuitive that we're starting with a lawn care product, even though we want to affect farming. But it's changing the consciousness of the consumers, because right now we go to the shops and we demand beautiful apples. And so they have to use chemicals to make sure that there's no wormholes or lumps in the apple. And so it's consumer behavior that's driving the behavior of the farmers right now. So if we re-educate the consumers, then we can put different pressures on the farmers and then change the way that our food is grown, hopefully.
And unfortunately with that, right now, like you put strawberries in a bowl of warm water with salt in it, you'll still pull out worms because one of the pesticides they put on there to prevent a certain type of fly from laying egg is actually sweet and draws worms in.
Wow. I didn't know that. That's crazy.
Oren, go ahead.
Touching on all that. Oh, sorry. Touching on the whole, so I'm a certified herbalist, and it's ridiculous how people don't understand how long they've been conditioned. One of the biggest things that I think is important and ties into what you're saying about lawn care health and how that's where we need to start. For 50 years now, we've been conditioned to use Roundup, right? Which is a chemical that kills dandelions. And so one of the first things we learned in herbal school is how to utilize the most common plants. Dandelion, if you combine the roots, the leaves, and the flower into one, tincture or one elixir, you are creating one of the most powerful heart and cardiovascular medicines on the planet. Guess who owns all of the synthetic pharmacology heart medications? The same parent company that owns Roundup. And that's why the dandelion is on the front of their nasty fucking poison that they want you to put all over your lawn. So, wow. Yeah, it all ties in. Same thing with, and I would love to I put my email in the chat, DJ. I live in Massachusetts in the Northeast, and I'm connected to a lot of sustainable and organic farmers in the area. So I would love to open up a dialogue about everything that you're doing with soil replenishing.
Nice. That'd be awesome. Yeah.
Dirty Dan, do you want to, again, I want to thank Justin Perkins of Talk Junkie, author, musician. I want to thank Mr. DJ Nicke of Carbon Capture Shield, Ingersoll, Lockwood. Auron, thank you. Be sure to check him out on TikTok. And Sonya, thank you. Be sure to check her out on TikTok.
And Twitch. Check him out on Twitch as well.
Yes. And Dirty Dan, do you want to tell us about Adventures with Purpose? And we'll close things out.
Rebecca's got her hand up real quick. Okay. Let's see what she would like.
I was just going to say, I'm also on Twitch with Honest Rebecca Thoughts. It's kind of like a Ask Abby advice column. We just started that as well.
So go check her and Auron out on Twitch. Sonya, 2A Patriot Mama on TikTok. Just type in a series of one number, decimal, one number, and you'll get her. She's got so many accounts from getting censored so badly. But yes, now time for a little plug here. I would like to take a moment to talk to you guys about Adventures with Purpose. It's a group that was founded by a guy named Jared Lysick out of Oregon. Him and Sam are now two main guys on the channel. It started out by cleaning up rivers, local watering holes, and that's now evolved into them both being dive and sonar specialists for search and recovery, and they've taken their talents and connections to the highest degree of self-service, and they get to give back to those who need it the most, and that can be from a sole person up to whole communities. They will actually be in Kentucky for two very prominent cold cases in October. I've established a little bit of a relationship with Mr. Lysick, and will be getting him and Sam and any of them in connection with us at Here to Chew Bubblegum here. I am actually wearing their shirt, bad plug. You can look them up on YouTube. Just type in AWP or Adventures with Purpose, and you can see what they get to do. And they literally have quit their jobs to do this. They've saved up enough. They used to take days, weeks, months off at a time, FMLAs to go out and to be able to offer their help to cases that deserve more attention, or anyone in need. They're not paid. They volunteer everything. So your support by just giving them a thumbs up on YouTube, hitting that subscribe button, that all helps them continue to do this. And, I pray it doesn't, but one of us could be affected by that one day and need them. They have well over 1 million followers on YouTube, and they're teaming up with other channels now to help bring awareness to them and their efforts, and as well as the other people they're teaming up with now. So if you like them and you want to support them or reach out to them, Jared will get back to you via email. Check him out at adventureswithpurpose.com.
Thank you very much. I also want to say special thanks to all of our guests on the show. Special thanks to Carlin for all the voiceover work. Be sure to check out Midlife Crisis and their new album, and it is available now on iTunes. Also, be sure to check out Uncle Bill, CK, and the rest of the gang over deadpit.com. Be sure to stop by and say hello to our friend Justin Perkins at Talk Junkie. And don't forget about Down on the Holler with Jordan and Brad. And if you want a podcast to listen to every day, be sure to check out Seth's Daily Podcast. And if you're into the spooky, creepy, and paranormal, be sure to visit spookyfamilypodcast.com. If you want to awaken more and hear honest thoughts, don't forget about Rebecca Short on TikTok. That'll do it for this week. We'll see you next week. And until then, so long for now.
Maybe I'm not leaving. Maybe I'm just going home.
Thanks for listening to Here to Chew Bubblegum. Tune in next time as we dive deeper into things the government doesn't want us to know.